This is your Pain Game podcast, where we talk about the game of living in and with chronic pain and trauma, getting to the heart of how to heal. I am your host, Lindsay Soprano. On this show, I plan on discussing with doctors, chronic pain patients, holistic practitioners, loved ones, and anybody that is interested in having their voice heard in the chronic pain and trauma world that we live in. We have many things to celebrate in this life of ours, right? And one of them that is epic beyond epic is friendships when it comes to celebration. Lifelong friendships are pretty damn remarkable, in my opinion. I mean, they ebb and they flow. They go through up and downs like a marriage does, right? You fight, you cry, you love hard. There are gaps in communication as we all grow up, right? We move around, we get married, we don't get married, we get divorced, we have kids, don't have kids, change jobs, all the things, right? But when you have a friendship that truly has lasted through the years, from being a child to a teenager, to falling in love, to college, and then on to adulting, you hang on to those kind of friendships, right? We need to hold on to them tight. And as we get older, I'm finding that those friendships become fewer and fewer. And those friendships that stay with you are so much more valuable than you thought that they ever could be. So today I have a guest for you guys who holds a spot in my heart that has a forever protected place for him. We grew up together from when we were little groms. We have been through a ton since then, and we're continuing to grow up together as adults. We're not really sure how today is going to go here on this episode. We kind of did a practice run, and then we had a big tear jerky version. Now we're both just exhausted, so here we go. Unscripted material, unscripted lifelong friends, here to chit-chat today a little bit with you guys. And a little bit of it, unfortunately, is going to be about childhood trauma, a little bit of religion, how to heal from some of the things that happen to us in our lives. But most importantly, out of all of that, the power of dog rescue. So let's talk about it. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you today to my guest, Scott Busby. Hey.
What's up, Linz? Thank you.
Oh, thanks for being here with me, Buzz.
Okay,
so if you hear me saying Buzz, that's him. Okay. So Buzz is the founder of CEO of Baxter Dog Media. Scott has charted a unique path by establishing his own publishing company, combining his storytelling passion with a steadfast commitment to animal welfare. His deep connection with Baxter, his own rescue pup, who you guys are going to meet shortly, sparked a journey of awareness and advocacy. Drawing from their unique bond, Scott wrote his first of many heartwarming children's books, Baxter's Second Chance, a new leash on life, that highlights the beauty and potential of every shelter dog. He's on a mission, and we're going to help him get there to change perceptions, encourage adoptions, and support organizations dedicated to giving vulnerable dogs a second chance. All right. So I'm rolling out the red carpet for you, babe. I'd like to, well, I mean, if anybody deserves it, it's you.
Thank you.
I'd like to start talking about this power of dog rescue and meet Baxter and have you introduce us to him. Basically, when and why did you decide it was time for you to rescue a dog?
I just kind of got to a point in my life where I kind of everything lined up, and I was working from home, and, I was in a position where I wasn't traveling as much, and I was able to have, really give the kind of love that you need to give to a dog. And I got to that point. I had wanted to have a dog for a long time, and it just kind of felt right.
That's awesome. And so, and did you choose that were you thinking about getting a dog, and were you going to rescue right out of the gates, or what were you doing? Were you like puppy shopping, or were you just gung ho right out of the gates you wanted to rescue?
Yeah. So not trying to promote Pet Finder, but that is the app that I used. And I started if nobody's heard of it, Pet Finder is a really cool app that connects, shelter animals to would-be adopting parents. And it's, a great app. I was scrolling through, looking at different animals, and Baxter and one other dog kind of popped out at me. And I had been doing that for probably a couple of months at this point.
Okay.
And so I made the decision that I was going to reach out to the shelter and just go through that process. And that was my first time ever rescuing. So I didn't know what I was doing.
I didn't know how often do we really know what we're doing? Big picture. I mean, but I mean, you grew up with a dog because I remember, and so you were lucky that you had an animal growing up. I didn't. Like my parents, you remember, I didn't have a dog. I had like a turtle and a hamster. It was so lame. And the power of the relationship the bond that you make with animals, especially dogs. I know we're dog people on this particular show here. But I mean, my dogs are so incredibly important to me, the ones that are in heaven and the ones that are here with me. I mean, if I'm crying in the other room, one of ours, Tommy, will come barreling down the hallway, little weenie dog style, and find me and attack me and kiss me and make sure that he knows that I know that I'm comforted and that I'm loved and he's got me. It's like, it's such a special place. And for people that have been through a lot in life, that bond and that emotional support, if you will, I really find valuable in my healing as I continue to heal from all the dynamite stuff that's happened in my life. So I'm proud of you for going and rescuing because that's cool. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what was your experience like?
So I found Baxter and one other dog, and both Baxter and the other dog were posted onto Pet Finder by a rescue organization called the Little Red Dog here in Orange County. And I didn't really know much about them or anything, but they had an email address and they had an application process. And so I filled out an application, and I ended up having a Zoom meeting interview with the founder of the Little Red Dog. And she's a super neat lady, but she grilled me. I mean, she put me through the ringer. Like she's asking me all the questions about my living space and asked me questions about dog behavior and, just really was trying to understand me and make sure. I mean, she did such a great job. She wanted to make sure that he went to a home where he was going to stay. And they steered me towards Baxter and couldn't have made a better match than that. So,
I mean, they say they pick you.
yeah.
And, and then you kind of pick them back. I know when we rescued Gucci, it was literally like the minute we found out about COVID, like we were just like holding our shirts up over our noses, like we did not know what was going on. We were already rescuing a dog before COVID started. So don't everybody freak out. We kept ours too. But we were there and we had gone on Pet Finder ourselves and we had found this other little dog and we got there. And the dog was just like, she looked like she was going to be ours on the website. But when we got there, Gucci just looked at us and we were like, okay, that's our dog. And she's just been the sweetest thing. But man, her story is just absolutely traumatic and sad. Do you know the backstory of Baxter?
I don't know the full backstory. I got bits and pieces. I've asked the Little Red Dogs since then. I've talked to them quite a bit since the book came out. But
sure.
I don't really know. He was maybe a year to a year and a half. He's half French Bulldog, half Shih Tzu. I did a DNA test. And actually in the interview process, PJ told me that he was a bullshit, which I didn't believe her because I thought she just was looking at me and was like, oh, this is the kind of guy that would totally want a dog that's a bullshit.
100% accurate.
She was totally right.
100%.
She was totally right, but I didn't believe her because I thought she was just trying to sell me on this dog. And so after the fact, I ended up paying for my own DNA test for him. And she was spot on. Just pretty much exactly half French Bulldog, half Shih Tzu. But so I went to their house. They have a facility now in Anaheim, but I went to their house. And when I met Baxter, he was really kind of anxious and not interested in anybody. In fact, they told me that he was like, as men in particular had to be careful around him.
Was he just like aloof or more like skittish?
Well, the guy that introduced me to him at that event was like, you need to make sure and like he doesn't snap at you and bite you. So be very careful when approaching him.
Okay.
So anyhow, I kind of let him do his thing. I let him do his thing, let him check me out. And we weren't really vibing at all in the beginning for like a good 20, 30 minutes. And my buddy and I were hanging out there and just kind of letting Baxter do his thing. And they said, look, you should take him for a walk down the street. So I took him for a walk about 100, I don't know, 150 yards down the street, sat down on the curb. It was just him and I let him sniff around me. I kind of had my like elbows on my knees, and I'm just sitting there holding the leash, let him do his thing. And he came around and he put his head underneath my armpit and rested his chin on my thigh. And he just let out this sigh like,
oh God.
And I'm like, okay, dude. Okay, you're coming home with me. All right.
Everybody get the tissues out immediately.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And that's we've talked about that sigh of relief, that feeling of safety, that feeling that we all long for when, you know, especially when we've been through the, like I'm using on this episode, the dynamite things that have happened to us, you know, because when we do find those safe havens and we do find those friendships and relationships in our lives, we have to hold on to them but also embrace that and be open to what that relationship can be, no matter what kind of relationship we're talking about, even though we're talking about dogs right now. But it works in life that way too. When you find those people, you really got to give them love and be grateful for that, the friendships that you have, no matter how short or long they've been, you know? So, So that's really cool. So you end up, so then you ended up just taking him that day, or
I took him home that day. He got to my place, and you know, I think one of the first things I did was take him to PetSmart to get some toys and stuff. And of course, he's like peeing on everything in PetSmart. I'm like, no, you know, like just,
attaboy.
He was so anxious because I don't think he didn't have a home. He didn't know where his place was. He, you know, just kind of observing him, he marked up my home like for weeks. And, you know, I didn't really know what I was, like I said, I didn't know what I was doing. The little red dog had an app to help me. They had so many different tools. They followed up with me. You know, they set my first vet appointment and all of that stuff. But I made the decision that I was going to just stay with him 24/7 and make sure that he knew that this was his home. I wanted to make sure that there was no doubt that this was his space. So I think for the first 2 months, I never left his side for even like a minute.
That's awesome. Did you just Instacart like a motherfucker?
Yeah. Yes, I did. But I mean, if I went out, you know, whatever, I went somewhere that I could take him.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, maybe I left him for 1 or 2 minutes here and there, but all of those issues stopped. All of the peeing in my place stopped. All of the issues stopped. And over the next, you know, I've had him for 2.5 years. I've just watched this dog go from being so anxious, so skittish around other people to now being excited and like jumping on people. And my friends all love him. And everybody that I know have watched him. And now he's like everybody's favorite dog. But at the beginning, they're like, dude, what kind of dog did you get, Scott? Like, you know, and so it's been a really awesome experience watching him become comfortable in his own skin, essentially.
Yeah. Well, and feel safe.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that is a huge deal. And I always say that I have safety issues. I do. I think I probably will always have them to a certain extent. But there are places and people and things, not unlike Tommy and Gooch, who make me feel safer, who make like at night, if Tommy isn't next to me, I like cannot sleep. Screw my sweetie and Gucci. Sorry, you two. But if Tommy's not there, I am like, I am up. I'm checking for him. I don't know where he is. I'm like, is he okay? Like, it's total, like, maybe more. I'm almost having anxiety and panic, even though he's okay. I'm the one needing him.
It's funny. It's a catch-22 for me. It's like, if he's in bed with me, I can't sleep. And if he's not, I can't sleep. It's like either he's getting in my way. He's like, you know, on top of the comforter. And I'm like, dude, why are you hogging all the blankets? Like, yeah. Either way, it's like, yeah, you know.
I kind of feel like you guys wear the same PJs.
Working on it. Actually, I'm going to order some that have, for him, that have my face on them, and for me that have his face on them.
Absolutely perfect.
Yes.
I would love every second of that. You could sell them little PJs, Baxter PJs. So cute. See, we're already trying to turn your book into an empire. one
it's
episode at a
it's gonna
time.
become a series, that's for sure.
It absolutely is. And we're going to continue to follow that journey. But I want to get back to talking a little bit about the safety and that the safe haven and the home that you've been able to provide for Baxter and that wonderful experience. And you've talked about it with me as well, but how much he changed. But you've also mentioned so much about how he helped change you. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I don't think, when you change slowly and you heal slowly over time, you don't notice things as much, right? But then when you look back over time and you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you remember certain events and you remember certain situations, I mean, I've had a lot of trauma throughout my life. I don't compare my trauma to anybody else's because everybody's is different. Everybody's experience is different.
Yep.
I can tell you that I have struggled my whole life with feeling like I'm good enough and feeling like I'm never going to be good enough. And it's a horrible feeling to have. And Baxter doesn't care. I am always good enough for him.
Absolutely.
And it's like, and also like just having him in my life and doing all the fun things that we do together. I feel like one of the main ways that he's helped me is I'm not jumping from crappy relationship to crappy relationship anymore. I'm not out there seeking for acceptance from other people as much, well, at least in a romantic standpoint. And whether I contribute that to Baxter or not, since I've gotten him, and since my last crappy relationship, whatever, but if I'm in a relationship that there's any sort of red flags, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm like, I don't want to introduce Baxter into this garbage. Like,
yeah.
I care way too much about him. And maybe I should care more about myself, but it's almost like I care way too much about him that I'm not going to put him into any sort of situation that's unhealthy. And also I don't need to because I'm happy with just him.
And I think that is your way that you've put up a boundary of providing yourself with better self-care. And you and I both have done our fair share of all of our substances.
Yes.
To put that nicely and kindly. We both, some together, some not. But we, over the years of some of the abusive things that we've done to our bodies, and to ourselves, for lack of a better term, I know for me, it was perfectionism that I was never going to hit. So why bother? There was that kind of element behind a lot of my rebellion. I also had to adult so young because I was put into such icky situations at such a young age that adulting had to start so early that I feel like I missed out a lot on what junior high and even high school was kind of about because I felt like I was so tainted and I was already so that I don't even know why. Like I didn't hang on to all of these memories. I bounced, as you know, from school to school, and I had all of these different friend circles, and I never felt like I was good enough or that I was ever going to be like I was ever going to find a safe spot because I had to move. You know how much I've moved. I mean, it's nuts. Not just schools, but out of state multiple times, out of the country. I mean, it's been nuts. You also were a seeker, like you mentioned, seeking outside of ourselves. And I think a lot of what Baxter has helped provide you, at least from my perspective, is giving you that safety as well, in that you don't have to go do all of these wackadoo things to get attention or try to strive for somebody or something that you're not, or who you'll never be, or who you never even wanted to be. I mean, I think it's pretty awesome that he came into your life. So there.
Well, I will tell you that you were always good enough, and I loved you exactly the way you were. So for all the listeners out there, if you don't know this, I knew Linz when we were kids, and I was just absolutely in love with her, adored her. She was my very best friend. We started walking home from school together as freshmen in high school. And, I mean, I was so stoked. I was just stoked being around you. So, I think oftentimes, I mean, the way we view ourselves in our own head is so different than the way other people see us.
For sure.
And I think one of the hardest things is converting how you feel inside to a positive thing, especially when you've just experienced so much crap.
Yeah.
I went through, thousands and thousands of dollars of therapy in my 30s to, get over this feeling of, and I'm still not totally over it, but I'm way better. This feeling of not being good enough and like, and healing some of that trauma, and, I think you're the bomb. I think you're fantastic.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And you're not too shabby yourself, good sir.
Thanks.
No, we've had such an interesting friendship and relationship with each other over the years. And it's been awesome being part of your life and to see where you've been and where you were and where you are now and where you're wanting to go. And I'm not going to spill any beans because they aren't yours to be spilled yet. But he's got all kinds of incredible things that he's working towards, and all of this because he rescued Baxter. So let's chit chat a little bit about what you're up to, what you've been doing. I want to talk about your road trip, what you're planning on doing as far as your book, how we can help, and what, talk a little bit more about the proceeds and your book pledge and all that stuff.
Yeah. So, as I spent the last, 2.5 years with Baxter, as I watched him grow and heal and myself heal, I just kept having this like recurring thought of how can I truly enjoy my time with this awesome little guy, knowing that so many other dogs out there don't ever get the same chance that he did.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why I wrote the book. And literally I was sitting around one day, I'd been looking in so many different places for my next project. And I was literally sitting there with a couple of buddies and I'm like, I'm going to write a children's book about Baxter and I. And they're like, okay, dude, sure.
Sure, kid.
and so I wrote the first draft within the next week, and I shared it with some people that are close to me, and I got a really positive response. And I came up with the title, which is Baxter's Second Chance, A New Leash on Life. And I reached out to the little red dog and I said, hey, can I use your name and likeness and logo and stuff in this book? Because I want to write a thank you and a dedication to you. And they're like, of course you can. Like,
yes.
Yeah,
please.
Of course.
Yeah.
And
so cool.
Yeah. So I wrote the book and I went through the process of getting it published. And I found like this new, honestly, I've done a lot of different things in my life from a career perspective. And I've made a couple of transitions, throughout there, but I'd done kind of the same thing for the last, 15 plus years, working in technology, but, I was burnt out, but
yeah,
for the first time, I could say in my adult life that my business endeavor is also my passion. Not only did I discover how much I really enjoy the writing and making things rhyme and, going through the creative process with the illustrators and putting together this work of art that I can share to people. And then obviously my ego gets all excited because I'm like, oh my God. Well, yeah. Yeah. I make these jokes to my friends, like when we're out and I'm like, well, as a published children's book author, like, but I really, and I say that tongue in cheek, obviously, right? I'm not like, I'm not like super prideful about it because I just feel really lucky.
No, that's not who you are though, as a person.
Yes.
Anyway, you don't even have that kind of a bone in your bod. So good for you on that one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course.
So, I wrote the book, I got it published. I went through that whole process, but what I learned was how much I enjoyed doing the writing and the creative part of it. And I've always been creative, but I kind of stifled that to go into other stuff for most of my life, which now I feel alive. Also, I get to hang out with my dog. But what that has morphed into is this business with a whole series that I'm launching. And so the business is Baxter Dog Media. I formed the LLC. I got all that stuff. And look, starting your own business is a lot of work. I could talk about all the trauma from that, but
we're doing EMDR just because of that.
Yeah, I know, right? I went through that. I went through that process, and just kind of briefly going into that, I launched the book, got the business. I'm giving half of the profits of all of the book sales to animal rescue organizations. I'm working on a series called The Adventures of Baxter Dog, which now that he has a home, now he's going out into the world, and he's learning life lessons, and he goes to exotic places, meets animals that are indigenous to that area, learns different characteristics about them, but then learns some sort of a valuable life lesson. And that everything about that series everything's going to be going to help other dogs like Baxter get their own second chance. And awesome. Cats too. I mean, whatever animal rescues. I mean, I'm not a
This is only for dogs. This is an only dog show.
Yeah,
no, we're trying to help animal rescues. Yes. And unfortunately, cats and dogs seem to be there more. And, if I have to watch one more ASPCA commercial, Sarah McLachlan, we love you. But my God. Every time I hear it, I just want to slit my wrists or go save 1 million dogs. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yes.
We can do better. We can do better in our shelters. We can do better as human beings. You've got these bully breeds. They weren't born bullies, guys. It is how they're raised and how they're, or how they're not raised. And if they're encouraged to fight and kill people, guess what they're going to do? Fight and kill people. Give me a break. So if we're better humans as a whole, not just to each other, but to the animals and to our planet, I mean, gosh, we can find. There was a statistic that you brought up, and I'm totally putting you on the spot. So I'm sorry if you don't have it, but you had mentioned something about how many dogs. How was it? How many years you could? What was the stat?
Well, so the stats that I know, last year, 3.2 million dogs wound up in shelters last year.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, 360,000 of them didn't make it out alive. I'm sure that some of them were put down because of health issues or old or, or whatever, right? I mean, some of them might have
they weren't just euthanized.
So sick, yeah, right?
Right. Yeah.
But the vast majority of them was because of the fact that these shelters they run out of space. They are government funded. They have very finite budgets, and they're doing the best they can. And when new dogs come in, they're overwhelmed, and the dogs that have been there the longest just run out of time, and they have to be put down.
Yeah.
And Baxter was one of those. He was in that spot. And thankfully for the little red dog, he was saved before his time.
Yeah. And we can do more as people too, instead of, the adopt, don't shop is a legit thing, and don't go get a dog just because it's Easter. It's just like why they say don't go buy rabbits for Easter, because it's like one of the worst things that you can do. Don't do it. Also, don't turn them into a coat. Okay. So, but when it comes, it's lessons from Peter.
Definitely don't turn them into a coat.
Please don't do these things. No, but we can spend more. We can give a little bit more energy to our communities that are around within our communities, because there are shelters around. It only takes a little bit of time to even volunteer or bring toys or bring dog bed. There's things that you can do that don't take a lot of your time either, that are at least helping the welfare of the animals and the people that are trying to save them. So I'm sorry, that's a little just slide.
Yeah, I think the other statistic that you were referencing was, the way that I've set up my business, and I'm writing these books, and, have a plan to write many, many more, is, so let me rewind. There's two things that are basically stopping us from being able to save those 360,000 dogs. One is money, and the other one is adoptive parents or foster parents, right? Well, there's other things that we want to do about the adoptive parents, foster parents side that I'm working on the back of my head. But the first and foremost is, if we could get all of the animal rescue organizations that exist today, if we could get them enough money to save all of those 360,000 dogs, those 360,000 dogs could be saved. And so the way that the math that I've done is, if a quarter of the households in the United States were to buy one of my books each year, we could raise enough money to save all of them, essentially.
That's what I was trying to get at. I couldn't put it into words, even though this is a podcast. I knew it was your statistic, so it was like your brain math that you put together for that. But yeah, so that's the point, that if we could, everybody on this that's listening, you're going to go buy this book. Okay, thanks. And we'll put all of that in the show notes and all that stuff too. So
and the book costs $900.
Yeah, it's really long. No, it's darling. And I'm just so proud of you for all of this, because I've seen that it didn't just get a new leash on life for Baxter, but it did for you too. And it's really nice to see, because, and I understand turning your passion into business, because that's what's happening here with my show. I don't find this to be work. It's work, but I don't find it to be work. You know what I mean? It's like I wake up and this is all I want to do, because I want to help others meet people like you. I want to have other people meet other people that can help them heal in whichever way they want to, and hear messages of hope. And I think that we both have been in some pretty dark places in our lives. And I lost hope in a lot of those dark places. And you're one of those people that saw me through some of those, and vice versa, I think.
For sure.
And they happen, the dark and twisty, and it's okay. There is hope. And you've got me, you've got Scott, you've got Baxter, you got Tommy, sometimes Gucci. But we're always here. You know, if you want to slip into our DMs, you know, shoot me an email, what have you. I can make any connections that you want to with Scott, myself, or anybody else that's on this show furthermore. So anyways, this has been really fun having you on. I'm so proud of you, and I'm excited to see where you end up. And we're going to do everything we can here to help you succeed in whatever way we can. So let's talk really quick. Where can, I know you gave the pledge, but do it again. Give me what you're doing with the book and the donation of profits, where we can find you, so on and so forth.
So you can find the book today on my website. It's www.baxterdog.com. That's BAXTERDOG.com.
DOG.
Yes, baxterdog.com. And as far as the series is coming along, we're going to be launching maybe the end of this month a Kickstarter to raise funds to illustrate, publish, and get the first of the Adventures of Baxter Dog series going. The first book is called Baxter's Rainforest Rumble, and the subtitle is A Ferocious Friendship. And Baxter goes out into the jungle to prove himself and find a worthy foe, and he ends up running into Jasper the Jaguar. They duke it out, get exhausted, and realize, why are we fighting when we can just become best friends? So we're going to be launching that on Kickstarter, so you can look out for that. Yeah, that's for now. That's it.
That's it. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
You can also find him everywhere on social media at Baxter Dog Media. Follow him on Insta. We're trying to increase as much awareness of what his mission is here with Baxter and his books, and trying to help save all of these animals that we've got in these shelters across the United States and hopefully globally. My gosh, it would be amazing to see where you are in 10 years, which I will. So there you go. Is there anything that you'd like to leave us with before we hit the dusty trail?
I don't know. I think this has been really productive. I think it's been a great time. I always love talking to you. So.
Oh, well, thank you. I love talking to you too. And you've got such good voice for podcasting too, but you already knew that. We're going to be doing some advertising for you guys for on the show, and plop in some of your own vocals and maybe a little bark from Baxter here and there too.
Oh, there is one thing. I could introduce Baxter, but I did have a great experience this last week. Is I had somebody bring my book in, and they sent me a private message, and they sent me a video of them reading with their daughters in like matching pajamas. It was adorable, right? And I'm running some ads right now using that, but I got a private message, and she said, "We were so impressed with your book that we ended up taking our name off of the purebred breeders waiting list, and we went to the shelter and we went and rescued a dog."
I love it.
And I was so stoked. I mean, that was so awesome. But we'll see if we can get Baxter to come up. Come on, bub. Come on. We'll see if he'll come and make an appearance. He's coming. Come on, buddy. Come on.
Is he coming?
Yep. Come on up.
Well, I love hearing success stories like that for you, Scott, so early on in the game too, because it's so awesome, to that immediately getting affirmed in the work that you're doing so quickly. I think that's awesome. And for those of you that are just listening, let's see if maybe he'll snort.
Let's see if he'll give us some grunts. When I'm like petting him and loving on him, he just does out these like, we'll see. Oh, I know, buddy. I know. You're on the spot right now.
Oh my gosh. Well, you guys can't see him or hear him, but those that can see him, there he is. And he's got a big long mohawk that goes all the way down his back. His back is really cute too. So, well, Baxter, thanks for saving my buddy. Thanks for saving my buddy. Yep. Actually, you guys rescued that. There's that old adage, right? Who rescued who? Right. So you two little cuties. I love it. Thanks so much for being here today with me, Scott. I appreciate it. And Baxter, of course. Thanks for making an appearance, buddy. It's been a pleasure having you. You are exclusively invited to share this rescue yourself and others VIP pain game journey together. Let's get to the heart of how to heal with you by my side. Do you know someone who is living in and with chronic pain, or who is struggling with health challenges, or is still having problems processing trauma? If you do, send them our way here to the Pain Game Podcast. We would love to connect with them and hear their heartfelt stories of strength and wisdom and grit. We are here to provide a safe place for you to unleash and share those incredible and powerful stories. Please follow the Pain Game Podcast wherever you digest your podcast content. We will be there. Visit us at thepaingamepodcast.com and follow us on all the socials. Thanks for listening, my little VIPs. Catch you on the other side.